She-Hulk wastes no time getting to the fun lawyer show with some backstory late in first. This late in the game, it's easy to feel like Marvel has their origin stories down to a science, with familiar beats welcoming a new hero into the ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe. But with Jessica Gau's brand new, upbeat fun lawyer show She-Hulk Attorney at Law, the origin story gets a refreshing, fast-paced upgrade. Starring Tatiana Maslany as the titular She-Hulk, aka Jennifer Walters, attorney and cousin to Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo, the series opens with Walters preparing her closing statements for an important case with the help of her paralegal friend Nikki, Ginger Gonzaga, and fellow lawyer Dennis, Drew Matthews. Dennis is a little less than helpful, claiming he should be the one to make the closing argument, while Nikki is far more encouraging. The first scene of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law features Jennifer Walters preparing her defense in front of her coworkers. She then dismantles the fourth wall, addresses the crowd directly, and shares her transformation story. In a flashback, she is seen driving and discussing Captain America's virginity with her cousin Bruce Banner. The car crashes because a spacecraft emerges out of nowhere. Bruce is saved by Jennifer after she injures her arm, but his inhibitor later goes haywire. Jennifer passes out when Bruce's blood gets on her raw wound. She gets up late in a bar and goes to the restroom there. Jennifer is approached by some local boys after getting refreshed by some neighborhood girls. She becomes the Hulk as a result of this event and passes out once more. Unlike the previous evening, Jennifer awakens in Bruce's Hulk-like beach mansion in Mexico. He claims that, because his blood has been exposed to gamma radiation, Jennifer may now transform into the Hulk. After that, Bruce instructs her to remain in the beach home in order to control her change, beginning with a test that would make her feel stressed. Jennifer becomes enraged by Bruce's experiment and turns into the Hulk. They learn that she doesn't have an internal alter ego, which amazes the Avenger. Jennifer claims that it is simply her intellect housed within a hulked-out body. This prompts Bruce to begin teaching Jennifer proper control of her powers, beginning with a meditation session. The next day, the two engage in a series of training exercises and discussions on how Jennifer can perfect her Hulk form. Evidently, Jennifer is demonstrating Bruce's inferior skill set to her own. The situation comes to a head when Jennifer confronts Bruce about going back to her regular life, a notion he is obviously against. Just before she departs, Jennifer demonstrates her ability to change at whim and rejects the notion of becoming a superhero. As a result, the two get into a heated dispute and fight. Bruce's bar is destroyed, and the two decide to call it quits. Bruce decides to let Jennifer go and return to her regular life as a result. The action then pans back to Jennifer responding to the crowd and returning to her legal work. Titania enters the courtroom and interrupts Jennifer as she is giving her closing argument. As the villain causes a scene, Jennifer confronts her in Hulk form, stopping her from doing more harm. She then interrupts Titania and makes her final argument. Jennifer is back in Bruce's bar in the post-credits sequence, drinking with her cousin. She is grieving over Steve Rogers' virginity while intoxicated. Bruce is forced by this to acknowledge that Rogers lost his virginity in 1943. Jennifer then declares that she is so happy that Captain America is not a virgin, that she is not intoxicated. The main focus of She-Hulk Attorney at Law's premiere episode is how Jennifer Walters acquires Bruce Banner's abilities. The narrative that follows demonstrates how she manages to transform into the Hulk, and Bruce spends a lot of time explaining how they are related as cousins and gamma-infused people. After the flashback, the audience is moved to the courtroom where Titania, played by Jamila Jamil, makes her acting debut. After a brief altercation, the episode comes to a quiet conclusion. She-Hulk Episode 1 successfully introduces Marvel's newest hero and places her in the larger Marvel universe. It accomplishes this accomplishment by deftly fusing comedy, information, and well-known scenes from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The end result is a debut that is successful and holds out hope for the character's future success.